and we're going to welcome onto the father-son coast-to-coast hotline, Brandon Seich. And we know you're going to love this interview, everybody. He's commissioner of one of the top 12-man fantasy leagues in Ohio. He won his fantasy league. Let's bring Brandon on now.
All right.
Hey, we welcome on to the father-son coast-to-coast hotline, Brandon Seich, famous graduate, all intention Liberty Patriots in Powell, Ohio.
All right.
Commissioner of one of the top 12-man fantasy leagues in Ohio, and general manager of Wubba Lubba Chub Chub, which won their fantasy league this year. Brandon, welcome to the father-son coast-to-coast hotline.
What an intro. What an intro. Thank you, Gary. Thank you, Tyler, for having me. I'm excited to be on. Told I'm the first guest. What an honor.
Yes.
Excited to talk some sports, see what you guys are all about.
Oh, yeah. Super excited to have you on, man. We're pumped. Brandon has been a longtime friend of mine, and we've been in this dynasty league together, brought Gary in and got him hooked on it. So excited to have you here, man. G-Man, what do you got for him?
The blood runs deep. The blood runs deep. Hey, I'm going to ask you some questions about the fantasy league, kind of get it going. T's got
absolutely.
Some other questions that we're going to get into also. We're excited about having you, man.
Let's get it started.
So, looking back at the fantasy season, you won the league, and looking at your management of your Wubba Lubba Chub Chub, you're just looking at that team. When you look back at the draft, we got the draft coming up in May. Last year, around May, June timeframe, you were kind of great in the middle of the pack. You were not one of the favorites to win it all coming out of the draft.
Yeah.
So I just wonder, starting off, if we can kind of walk through time, what were your thoughts back then coming out of that draft about how you were going to get yourself positioned?
Well, I knew I had the upside coming out of the draft, right? So couple of big name guys that I got on my team early were Antonio Brown and Terry McLaurin, right? And that the talent's there with those guys, but the question marks around the offense. So you knew coming into the season that you had the upside picks. And then we have our dynasty thing going, right? Our keepers. So I got Dalvin Cook, Nick Chubb, George Kittle. Man, what a floor to start with, right? The thing that took me really over the top right after the draft was a little guy named James Robinson. I think everybody knows who he is by now. The free agent acquisition of the year. I was able to snag him off of waivers just before the season started. A couple other league mates. I think another league mate had him for a while and dropped him, and I was able to pick him up, and he really carried my team. That was the big acquisition that kind of carried me through the whole season.
Yeah, James Robinson and Mike Davis. Mike Davis was supposedly the number one pickup, but I think when you look back now at the season, James Robinson was a better pickup than Mike Davis. And you think, T?
Yeah, overall, the consistency from James Robinson was a huge pickup for you. You already had two stud running backs. James Robinson at your flex is just crazy unfair. And it's great pickup after losing George Kittle for most of the year. That really helped change your team.
So James Robinson has that reliability, right? I think he didn't score under 10 points like the entire season. Getting that kind of production from the running back position is unheard of.
Yeah. Well, James Robinson was out there on waiver wires. People were picking him up and dropping him, What made you go get him? How did you know?
I didn't know. I would be honest, blanking on the name, but who was the running back that they had, the pass catcher?
I can't remember his name
either. You're right.
Oh my God.
So there was a running back above him on the depth chart, right? So
Chris Thompson.
Thank you. Oh my gosh, I blanked on his name. He's a journeyman in the league, always the pass catcher, right? So they cut Fournette early in the season, and everybody thought Thompson was going to be the next man up. Like, oh, he's the pickup, right? And I'm mowing my lawn, and I'm listening to, different radio stations, and they say, hey, if you can't get Thompson, there's this guy named James Robinson, who I guess is on, and Divine Ozigbo. Well, Ozigbo and Thompson were both already claimed, so I was like, I guess I'll snag this Robinson guy on a flyer, and it paid off.
Oh,
it's crazy.
Yeah, a lot of people grab those kind of players, but then if you hold on to them, you held on to them long enough and not let them go.
Well, it's all about opportunity. It's all about opportunity. You know what I mean? You see, James Robinson got, a handful of carries in the first game, did all right with them. You're like, all right, let's see what this kid's about. And, he just kept ramping up. And once you see that opportunity building, you hold on to those players.
That's certainly big pickup, man. Big pickup. Now you got him on your team. And, when we look at your team last year, I'm talking before the playoffs, you're in the middle of the season, you got James Robinson, you got this really good team. and your scoring was so up and down. And we look back, it was a 12-team league, and in week 12, you scored 176 points.
Yep.
Set the tone for your team going into the playoffs. But there was other games where you had like 100. What was going on with your team? I think you were second in the league in points overall, but you were really up and down.
So you remember how earlier I said there's the upside with a lot of my players? Well, that upside comes with some downsides. I mean, anybody who plays fantasy knows that it's a roller coaster, right? But when you get guys that have real high ceilings, sometimes that comes with low floors. I mean, Terry McLaurin struggled with quarterback inconsistency all year, right?
Yeah.
He had a stretch of games where he was seeing 7 targets and 70 yards straight, right? And then it dropped down to 4 targets and 3 receptions for 12 yards, that kind of stuff. AJ Brown was kind of in and out with a knee injury. So navigating those waters and trying to find people to plug and play gets really tricky.
176 points. They all put it together in the same game.
Hey, when it comes together, it works.
Yeah, and you had Chubb out for a lot of games there too, so that hurt. But bringing him back healthy was just huge. So
yeah, that was big.
I mean, it's pretty fun. What do you think? You've been a commissioner now for a long time. A lot of people don't know this guy puts out weekly write-ups. It's pretty intriguing. Writes about each team, hilarious stuff. I mean, it's just so funny what this guy does. Paragraphs on every team and every player. It's great. And what are you doing during that to think about each team every week? What made you want to do that?
It started off just as back in the early days of the league. It was a text message thing. We would go back and forth and we would just talk about each other's teams. And it started where I would send a paragraph on one person's team a week, just in our text chat. And it would always get everybody talking, right? And that's one of the things as a commissioner, I think that everybody tries to work on or build within their league is engagement and get people chatting, get people talking. Doing a weekly power ranking and writing a little bit about each team did just that. I mean, people, I would work in inside jokes. I would work in little jabs at teams. I would pump other teams up. I would do themes. Like we always have the Halloween theme is like my favorite one where I compare
your Halloween theme is unmatched. That's
that
legendary.
That was legendary.
Everybody looks forward to it and talks about it and chats about it, and it just gets people more engaged. Everybody wants to climb in the power rankings. Even if you're not number 1, well, maybe I moved from 10 to 7 this week, and like maybe I'm in the top 6, maybe I'm in playoff contention, and it just gets everybody excited.
I think you said you were like Chucky, the doll Chucky, and I was thinking you were saying you scare everybody, but you don't really hurt anyone.
Nope.
And I was thinking, I was kind of scared. I was kind of scared of Chucky, and I was kind of scared of him. I would have ran if Chucky was coming after me.
My favorite one was when we had a guy who kind of gave up on his team. Right? He was just he was a corpse. You're poking him with a stick, like, hey, buddy, do something now.
Well, your write-ups are awesome, man. I love your write-ups.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun.
So awesome. We look forward to them all, and thanks for doing all that. And you're running the league. You got this team that's at the top, and you strategically position yourself in the West and the East because you come out of the East region. You're the number 1 guy in the East, and there were a 12-man league, so 6 of us make the playoffs. 1 team comes out of the East. That's you. You get a bye, and over in the West, 5 of us go into the playoffs. So it's you against all 5 of the guys from the West going at it, and you got that bye in the first round. So you were 2 games from the title, man.
I know it helps out. It helps out a lot having that bye, and I think that it's great having a 6-man playoff. I would advise any league out there or anybody who's considering it. It doesn't devalue the playoffs at all. Everybody wants to make the playoffs, make the postseason. It gives you something to fight for. Those like middle tier teams are still battling for their shot. So giving the first round bye to the best teams makes it, better to win a lot. And giving the middle tier teams a chance to make it in gives everybody a chance to be competitive.
Yeah, no, I totally agree.
Mm-hmm.
Well, speaking of the playoffs here, we got to talk about your Brownies. They made the playoffs for the first time in a very long time. First road playoff win in 50 years. I mean, in our adult lifetime, we have not seen them even be remotely close to good. No. I mean, it's pretty awesome. What'd you think about this year? How'd you think the ending came playing against the Chiefs? What are
Oh
your
my
thoughts on
goodness.
this year?
I tell you what, every week you're waiting for it to end, right? Week one, week one, they played the Ravens and got blown out. They didn't even look
Destroyed.
like a football team. So you're like, oh man, it's just another year for the Browns, right? And then they put together some wins and they beat like kind of a bad Dallas team that they weren't supposed to beat. And like they rattled off a couple of more. And
Yeah.
it just kind of kept building momentum. And you get to the end of the season, you're like, oh my gosh, this team's got a chance. Like they look pretty good. And then I got to tell you that playoff win versus the Steelers was cathartic. Oh, it felt so good to see them compete at that level and play with talent, conviction, ambition.
It's going to go down in the annals of one of the greatest games ever for Cleveland.
It was almost a passing of the torch for them as well. It felt like Big Ben kind of done.
Well,
Baker
we will
ready
see.
to take
we
over.
will see. I don't know if I'd say that yet.
Well, speaking of that,
they've got Dwayne Haskins coming in now, so
that's
talk about
true.
the next step in the franchise.
Yeah, for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Well, speaking of quarterback, what do you think about Baker? There's a lot of discussion about him being, a franchise guy or not. Where do you see him?
There are big question marks coming into this season, and I think he answered them. He bought himself a year, and I think that anybody who watched him play and watched him the way he was with Stefanski's offense, give him a full off season, give him a year in a system that he learned the year before.
Yeah.
Let's see what happens. You know what I mean? I think that Baker's gonna get another prove it deal at the end of this. I don't think that he's done enough to get the big money franchise contract that he probably wants. But once again, Baker's always been the guy with the chip on his shoulder. He's going to use that as another chip to better himself and propel himself into even greater excellence. And I'm excited to see where he goes. I'm not ready to push my chips all in on the Baker Mayfield hype train yet, but I think that the boy's got something special. And if we can keep the offense together and the O-line and the coaching staff, we're in for some good things.
Yeah. Hey, everybody. We're talking to Brandon Seich on the Father-Son Coast to Coast Hotline. Brandon, great to have you here tonight. And talking all kinds of sports here, especially football, as we work our way out of the Fantasy League through the playoffs now, working our way to some other sports. Team Money?
I mean, the biggest game coming up this year now, the Super Bowl. What are your thoughts on these Chiefs? They look unstoppable, but now you got the GOAT, Tom Brady. What are your thoughts going into the Super Bowl here?
Storylines. You've got Patrick Mahomes concussed a week ago. Can he continue to rally and come back? You've got Tom Brady, the GOAT. Can he win it with another team? You got Antonio Brown on his redemption arc. Rob Gronkowski comes out of retirement and is running around like the young man that he is. It's got everything you want in a Super Bowl. Unfortunately, it doesn't have two teams that I genuinely care about. So that's really all it's missing. I think it's going to be a great game. I think that you're going to get the best out of Tom Brady. He knows his time's coming up. And I think you're going to get the best out of Patrick Mahomes because he knows his time is just starting. It's a lot of intrigue, a lot of interest coming into it. And it's going to be one for the ages, I think.
Yeah, we got Brady. The last team to go repeat was Brady's team, the New England Patriots, and now we got Kansas City trying to do that repeat.
Yeah.
And Brady was the last guy to do it.
Yeah. Do you think that Mahomes has any sliver of a chance at ever catching Brady as the GOAT?
Yes. And because of the contract he signed with Kansas City made an investment in their future when they said, Patrick Mahomes, we want you forever. Literally forever. What was it, like 10 years or
10
something
years,
ridiculous like that? That is the kind of money. And Patrick Mahomes said, yeah, I'm going to take it because the back half of that contract is not going to be nearly as expensive as it is up front, which means they're going to be able to load up on talent. They're going to stack that offense with a quarterback who's been around in that system for forever. They know what they have, and they're building it. And boy, is it going to be something to watch for the next couple of years.
Yeah, I mean, if they win this game, the Chiefs, they beat Brady, that goes in his pocket if there's ever a tie. You didn't get LeBron versus Jordan. If you get to, 20 years from now, Patrick Mahomes like, well, I got 6 Super Bowls and I beat Brady in one of them.
And I beat you.
Well,
It's a big deal.
we tend to look at the old guy versus a new guy here. We knew there was going to be an older guy playing against a younger guy as the quarterback in this ball game. But it could be that Brady could win the next 3 years in a row. He could win these next 3 years. And if he was,
That'd be insane.
This is really going to settle it. Who's going to win this game? Who's going to win? I think Brady's back next year, so they're going to go at it potentially again next year. So can Brady win like 2 or 3 in a row? It's over if he does.
If he wins this one, he shuts it down.
He cements his legacy with this one. If it's not cemented already, it's hard to make the argument he's not the GOAT. Winning with 2 separate teams, I think Peyton Manning is the only one to do that before, right? Broncos and Colts, and he only won 2. It's something to watch with this Tom Brady guy throwing the ball.
Well, who you got then? Let's hear your pick.
We'll give you the spread. To get some picks out here for our fans. We need some picks.
The spread here is 3.5 favored in Kansas City and 56.5 over under. So what do you like there? Do you like either? What are your thoughts?
All right.
We need your pick, big dog. We need your pick.
All right. If I'm a betting man, I'm taking the over.
All right.
Both of these teams' defenses have underperformed in the playoffs. Both of these teams' offenses have overperformed. We're going to see a shootout. Okay?
All right.
Kansas City's going to win this football. Kansas City's going to win this football game. I think the youth takes over. I think they've been there already. The consistency of that team, the number of people that they've brought back, I think it all plays into and culminates in a Super Bowl victory for Patrick Mahomes, Andy Reid, and the Kansas City Chiefs.
All right. We love it. Brandon stamping the Kansas City Chiefs as the Super Bowl champs. That's awesome.
Signed, sealed, delivered.
Brandon, well, hey, thanks for joining us on the Father-Son Coast to Coast Hotline.
Thank you for having me.
Brandon Seich, Seich and Destroy, our man.
Right.
So much fun.
Ohio. We love having you, man.
It was great, man. Thanks so much for coming. So much fun having you, and looking forward to a new season here.
Yep. All right, guys.
All right. And hey, T Money, I really enjoyed that interview. Brandon is a motivator. You can see why he won that league. Very strategic. He loves fantasy. He loves football. I can see how he won the league, and I'm ticked off that he won.
Yeah. Good win for him winning that league. He's a phenomenal commissioner, plenty of funny write-ups, and always willing to work with the rules and things like that for everyone, and just passionate Browns fans. So happy for him and the Browns this year. He was great on there. He knew what he was talking about, man. He could be sitting in my chair. I got to be careful here.
Hey, we all do. And thanks again to Brandon Seich.
Yeah.
Seich and Destroy out of Powell, Ohio, man. That's where they build the athletes, out of Powell, Ohio. Thanks for coming on, Brandon Seich.